Hello, my name is Peter Parf. Welcome to the new Brit workshop and this second video about the Parf Guide System Mark II. So now continuing the process to drill the 20mm holes, but I've actually had a break and I've made a separate video in that time about drilling offset holes. And if you look up my how to drill offset holes in the Parf Guide System Mark II video, whatever I've called it, you will see that. But now we're going to continue the process of drilling the 20mm holes in order to complete this top. And this will be a very short piece now because I'm making the assumption that you are already familiar with the original Parf Guide system. Now, drilling the 20mm holes is very simple. The cutter that we have is a special cutter, and it has a spike on it which is 3mm in diameter. And this cutter has to be used where there is a 3mm hole going all the way through the material. If without that 3mm hole, then this drill comes to a halt because the tip of this cutter doesn't actually cut. That's there for positioning only. The other part of the positioning, if I put that spike, just introduce it to where the hole is, the other part of positioning is achieved by using the pins through the two holes. There's a third hole, but the two furthest apart holes on the 20mm cutter block. Now, the other thing about this is it's absolutely essential to have dust extraction. If you don't have the dust port, then use your extractor right up against the place where the drill is being used, and that way you'll clear away the detritus reasonably well. So the block is held absolutely rigidly in place by virtue of the two pins and the fact that the spike is always trying to look for that 3mm hole. And so we're ready to do our first drill. And use a pecking motion. That means going up and down, up and down. And you also see now why we have a stop collar on here, because otherwise your cutter could fall through the hole. And there we have a beautiful clean hole. Now, having put that 20mm hole there, we no longer are able to use a 3mm pin to position the block there. So rather than cutting our next hole there, we're going to cut it here. So we're going to go through this process of cutting every other hole. And I'm positioning the cutter just as I did before. Put a pin in and the other pin in, and that's really got that rigid. Make sure my hose is connected, and away I go. And there we go, and then we've got a nice clean hole. And we're going to continue all the way down here, and then I'll show you how we fill in the intermediate holes. Now, when it comes to putting the pins in to locate the 20mm guide block, if possible, always have the pins at the furthest places on each line, so one here and one there if possible. But there will be times when you've got no option, and I'm now having to use this position and this position. And the same will be true when one's using the Parf locator dogs, which fit in these holes here, in order to position the jig for doing the intermediate holes. And I found that using the drill on its highest speed is the most efficient as far as my dust collection goes. Now, if your extractor isn't as good as mine, and you're finding you're getting a little bit of detritus blocking up here, then put your hand over the other side as you're doing the drilling, and that way that will increase the airflow past the cutter. Now, you'll inevitably come to a stage similar to this, and I've been able to drill every other hole in these columns here, but nothing in between. So rather than just keep thinking in a row-wise concept, think about it in column-wise now, because if it's still possible to use the extreme pins, the one at this end and the one at that end, then do so. And in this particular case, I can tackle each of these columns at least twice by having a pin at either end and cutting a hole there. I then move along too. So if you're still able to do it at the extremes, do so, it leads to better accuracy. Well, that's the first session using the 3mm pins to hold the guide block in place, and of the 77 holes there are only, I think it's 27 I counted, which I haven't drilled. So there's only 27 left to do. I'm just going to switch the cutter now from the position for the 3mm pins to the position where we'll be using the Parf locator dogs, which come with the kit. Now, it goes in so well that actually you'd have difficulty moving that. Now we've got to drill a hole right in this corner here, and clearly there's no way that we're going to find anything to register with on this side. And this is the one exception where you locate the drill bit and you've got the two holes on this side for the Parf locator dogs. And so in they go. They're in. That is still absolutely rock solid, and it's in the right position, and away we go. And there you can see we've managed to get that hole in perfectly satisfactorily. And as always, if you're able to use holes at the extremes, then always do so. And I'll show you, I want to do a hole here, and I can put a Parf locator in there, and I'm going to this far end here where I put the other one in like so, and so we're ready to go again. Well, that's it. That's the last hole drilled. Now this hole tops take me just over an hour to do, and I've estimated that slightly because I had to take off those times that I was doing video sort of stuff, but I'm getting pretty quick at them now. Really, if I weren't videoing, I reckon 55 minutes to do 77 holes and have them absolutely spot on. But we need to check this, don't we? I wonder if it is spot on. We'll find out. Well, this is very exciting. This is now the time to test it. Now, what I've done is I've put a pair of super dogs in, one at the top here and one there. And I now need to set up the dogs that I'm going to be using along this line against which I will push my stock. And I've got a choice now. Now, I could use the UJK guide dog, and this is a plain dog apart from this section here. And this section here has a lip on it with a chamfer on the underside. And that is designed to fit exactly down into the chamfered holes on the MFT3 top. And remember, we use the chamfering tool to make that chamfer in the top of all the holes, as you see here. So there's the guide dog, but there are some shorter ones as well. And I really like these. These are guide pups. Same concept, plain shafted, except for this little lip here, and the underside has the chamfer, which again fits exactly down into these chamfered holes which we've got on the MFT3. If I push that down like so, it's a tight fit. Now that is deliberate. That is the same with all of the items that are designed to go with the Parf Guide System. It's all on tight tolerances. And this holder is not available for sale. This was made as a present for me by my very good friend Michael. Absolutely super. It's made from Velcromat, and there are two flavours. There's the green and there's this yellowy colour here. Absolutely super job. Now I've used 4 of the guide pups just along this line here. And I can come this way either to this position or this position because my guide rail means that the cut is going to be about here. And so with these lower dogs, they're not in the way of the guide rail, and yet they give a bit of extra support over on this side. So I think we're ready to do our test cut now. So I've got my piece of wood pushed up against the guide pups here. I'm going to hook my guide rail over like this. So my rail clips are holding the guide rail snugly up against the super dogs. So that's in place. Just check once more that's okay. I've got my square here ready to go. My saw is set up to the correct depth. And so let's see what happens. Notice how the saw motor casing is nowhere near this dog, and I'm well past the end of the cut. So now have a look at that, and I'll bring this straight up to the camera. Now I cannot see any daylight through there at all. But this isn't the ultimate test. What we need to do is the four-cut test, and I'm going to make a separate video about that now, and I'm going to do that hopefully in one take, so you can see the whole process, so you can see that I'm not cheating. Anyway, for now, thank you very much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.